Amen. Isn't that true? That's the blueprint for living. We bring all of our differences, our hopes, our faith, our fears, we bring it all together into one place. And we let the light within us guide us into this moment of what to say, what to do, how to be. Even guide our thoughts, our feelings, every part of it. Give it to God. Surrender. Then you'll be dancing with the divine. Surrender. It's okay. Let go. God is love. We're not going to be hurt. It's not a vengeful God that's going to smite us and knock us down. There's no sin. This is a big thing. We've been looking at this idea, Lily and I, of what motivates the human being to so fervently cling to an idea that's hurting themselves and others and the world. Cling to ideas of violence, of hatred, of division, instead of following this wonderful blueprint for living that we have, that was given to us by every spiritual teacher, spiritual master, and is at the core of every religion and every true spiritual path. That's the way of love. That's the way of bringing all of our differences and being authentic, all of our hopes, our faith, our fears, bringing it all together. So what would motivate someone to keep doing the very thing that's hurting you instead of following the blueprint for your happiness and your joy and your health and the health of the planet and everyone else? That motivation is fear, is the belief in sin, is the belief in evil, is the belief in a negative power, a force that can take over, that can actually be more powerful than God. Right? The devil is just as much power in some religions, in some ways of thinking. But it's not the way or the blueprint for dancing through this life as a divine being. It's not the blueprint for living. It's not the blueprint for loving. It's the blueprint for fear. And so we have to look at it and we have to decide against it. We have to say, no, I'm choosing the blueprint for life. I'm choosing the blueprint that was given to me. Whether it's my way shower Jesus, or whether it's the Buddha, or whether it's anyone else. If you're demonstrating love, Paul, I'm going to join you. I'm going to follow you. Why not? The Christ lives in you just as much as anyone else. And so if I'm forgetting who I am, I'm going to try to look to someone who's remembering. And this is really what we've been learning. Last week we were learning the transformative power of affirmative prayer. And in that, we had this wonderful song by Stowe Good, My Life is a Prayer. So instead of praying for circumstances out there to change before I can be happy, I am going to be the circumstance of happiness. I'm going to be the demonstration of happiness. I'm going to be what I was created to be, this magnificent, loving, beautiful being. And I'm going to show you that that's what you are too. That's what I'm going to reflect to you. Because when I see it in you, I'll see it in myself. And then I'll experience the world that way as well. So it came to me last week during the message. I said, when your life is a prayer, you are dancing with the divine. Because you're claiming the truth. In affirmative prayer, one of the first things that we do is claim the truth. I am peace. I am power. I am love. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am that which I am seeking. Instead of saying, as soon as these conditions out here change, maybe I'll start experiencing that. No, I am that. That's affirmative prayer. And that transforms you because you're affirming something that's already true within you. I am the light. I'm not seeking the light. I am being the light. And it's a complete shift in consciousness. Because we've always thought we're so small. We've been taught that we're so small, that we're sinful, that we're separate, that somehow there's this inherent evil. It's not there. Unless you create it in your mind and manifest it for yourself, it doesn't really exist in the mind of God. But holy mackerel, what have we been teaching ourselves? Isn't that incredible? So, in all of this week, in all of my necessity to discover who I am in the midst of everything that's going on and how I can make a true difference, I ran across a quote by this wonderful guy. I never knew him before, Walter Brueggemann. Walter Brueggemann's 90 years old. He's an American theologian, a Protestant theologian, but he's an Old Testament scholar. And how many of us have run away from the Old Testament? But if you can look at it in a context that is meaningful and thoughtful, in our case, metaphysical, it really helps. Walter Brueggemann said, the prophetic tasks of the church are, this is incredible, to tell the truth in a society that lives in illusion. So you're telling yourself a story, and you're believing this. It's an illusion. It's not true. Your task is to tell the truth. No, you turn on your TV or you talk to people about what's going on out there, and you program it into your mind as that's the truth. That's reality. And I listen to people sometimes just talk about their problems, the so-called problems, talk about what's going on, and talk about their health issues, talk about what went wrong yesterday, talk about what's going wrong today, what's going to go wrong tomorrow. And that's your reality. Because thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So you have to tell the truth in a society that lives in illusion. You're living in this condition of illusion. That's your world. But I'm here to tell you it's not the real world. It's not the world that reflects the love of God. So your next task is to grieve in a society that practices denial. Well, that's okay. There's a war going on over there and over here. And then we've always had war. People always kill each other and blah, blah, blah. Why? That's when I was, 4 years old. I asked my parents, because my dad, he was a veteran. Happy Veterans Day, by the way. I'm here to tell you that we're here to create a world in which war is no longer necessary. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back in time to a past life when I told you that it was necessary for you to go and fight that war to be free. And I'm sorry I told you that. Because the war is something that is created in that illusion. You're living in an illusion. I'm here to tell you the truth. That war is not necessary in this world. And in fact, at this time, it's more evident than ever with all the people we have on earth that peace is the only thing that is going to bring us back to sanity and break the bonds of illusion. Forgiveness, peace. And it happens all over the world. We were reading about the African nation where Darfur is. You remember Darfur? Remember the horror that happened there? Well, at the end of hundreds of thousands of people being massacred, those people decided to forgive. They didn't say, we're going to build up an army, we're going to build up walls around us. Listen, this is happening with people. You just don't hear about it because you're living in illusion. You're not focused on forgiveness. You're not focused on love and the power that forgiveness and love can bring to you. They forgave. They began to live again and grow a society from forgiveness and love. And you can look over what's going on now. They're one of the more prosperous and peaceful places in Africa. And yeah, it's going to take an evolution. It takes time for human beings to change their minds and their ways. But we've come to a place where it's absolutely necessary. Don't wait for the other person to forgive. It's for you to do. When you think that it's okay for someone anywhere in the world to kill another person, that's you killing that person and that's you being killed. Put yourself over there in that place. We cannot be separate from it. We're living in denial. True grieving is going to lead to forgiveness. It's going to lead to a moment where I cannot do this anymore. I cannot support war anymore in any form. I cannot support a grievance in my heart in any form, in any way. I can't do it. I've been hurting myself by holding you separate from me. So we're going to practice true grieving in a society that practices denial. We're going to express hope in a society that lives in despair. Many people tell me, well, that's it. Human race is done. It's done. We're in global warming and there's wars going on. The Third World War is going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. That's your illusion. Come on. Please, 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 somebody get excited about the blueprint for living. We have a new way. We have another way. It's not really new. It's been around for a long time. But now we're saying, wow, I can really do this. Like I don't have to follow the old ways. I just don't have to do it. And we've been evolving. You can see a lot of things have evolved over time. The thing about evolution is it doesn't take time, actually. It takes willingness. It takes a decision. Every decision you make is going to make a change. So the reason that it seems to take time is that we take a long time to make that decision. I don't know if I can choose this. I'd rather the old way, right? So this is the prophetic task of anyone in spiritual life, is to proclaim the truth in a society that lives in illusion, to truly grieve in a society that practices denial, and to express hope in a society that lives in despair. And I always point to these two things, these two scriptures. The first one is the Jewish scripture from the Talmud, which is the core of Jewish teaching. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. So, what are we to do? Do justly now. In your own life, in any way, how can you do justly? How can you love mercy? Give mercy to those who are suffering. How can you do that? What is yours to do in your life? And to walk humbly. Not to make a show of what you're doing, but to just do it. And remember, you're not obligated to complete the work, but you are also not free to abandon it. If you've chosen the blueprint for living in peace, you cannot abandon that. Go, well, okay, it's not working. It is working. Paul, it's working. Everything that you've worked for all your life is touching people all over the planet that you may not ever meet. But it's working. All our practices of forgiveness, all of our meditation, all of the meta-meditations that we send out, loving kindness to everyone, it works. Scientists have proven that it works through this thing called quantum entanglement. Right? What's happening over here is also happening over here. You can't get away from it. You are connected. Everything is connected. So with that in mind, The second scripture that I always point people towards is Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent, if you can find any excellence and anything praiseworthy, just think on that. Think on those things. Focus on the good. That's the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. I'm not saying to deny the suffering and pretend it's not happening. I'm saying grieve in a real way. Feel it in your heart all the way. And then focus on the good and how you can bring good in this situation right here and right now. It's an amazing thing. I realize that this is where I am. I often want to go and build houses for people who've been wiped out by a hurricane, or I want to go and feed people in the Ukraine, or I want to go and help people to escape from Gaza, or I want to go to the refugees in Syria and help to feed them. And I think, wait a minute. What is mine to do? I am here, standing here right now. So what is mine to do is to take all of that energy that will be a positive help for someone, find where that's coming from, and offer that. Because the motivation for doing good comes from the same place as the person that's actually doing it. I mean, we do help people. We send money to the International Rescue Committee every once in a while. We send them a lot of money to help people who were refugees from the war in Ukraine. And that was, you know how that was started? I'm going to digress a little here. Albert Einstein helped to start the International Rescue Committee to help Jews that were escaping the persecution in the Second World War. And it's still going today. He planted a seed, and it's growing and growing. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that a great story? So smart people help others. Oh, you just don't like this message, do you? You want to just deny all of it, don't you? No, you don't. Okay, good. Good. Because it's happening in your world, and so you're responsible for it. You are your brother's keeper. And I get often very frustrated, like, am I doing enough? Can't I do more? What can I possibly do? And I think, again, of what Walter Bergman has told me, is that I have a task. I have a task to tell the truth in a society that lives in illusion. I have a task to practice, to be in authentic grief in a society that practices denial, and express hope in a society that lives in despair. And to keep doing it every day. And to get there myself every day. So I've taken on the practice of meditating every morning. Sometimes I'll only get 10 minutes, and that's enough. And what's great is that my reaction, my survival mechanism gets shut off. Because that reaction to the world is the same inner feeling that we get when we want to attack our so-called enemies, when we want to get vengeance, retribution, when we want it to work out the way we want. So it calms down what they call the amygdala in the brain, the fight or flight or freeze response. So rather than reacting, I can stop, process it through this frontal lobe area, right? And what happens to people who've been doing this a long time is it'll immediately connect your heart and your brain together. So you need that flow going so you get clear information. And then you respond. You respond from love. rather than fear. It's really cool because it's scientific, it's chemical. It's happening in your body. What happens when you turn on the news and your internet and all these other sources of information that are based on you believing the illusion they believe? You get all nervous, you get the amygdala firing off, and you got to do this and you got to do. You don't know what to do. You pray. Thank you. That's it. That's what we were talking about last week. The answer to this is to pray, to meditate. But praying from the place of my life is a prayer. Praying from this, right here. I am going to live in the truth of who I am. Not, dear God, please take away the wars and the suffering. We've done that, and we still have a lot of wars and suffering, don't we? And people ask, well, why does God allow these wars and suffering? And if he had a human voice like you think he does, he'd say, why do you allow it? I give you the universe. It's all yours. You're a magnificent, creative, powerful being. What are you creating? The world that you see is a product of your mind. You're doing it. This thing we call God, Spirit, universal energy, universal mind, is completely unconcerned with your illusion. All it does is radiate love. All I want to do is radiate love. And that's my prayer. I want to be in that prayer. I want to live in that prayer. I want to think on these things so that I can radiate love. So when we willingly surrender to God and learn the dance of the divine, what happens? Each step becomes easy, natural as breathing. My life does become a prayer. I'm learning to dance now. We learned last week affirmative prayer is one of the ways that we develop our language of spirituality. There's an energetic language. It's a language of spirituality where if we speak a word, we know it's being manifest immediately, and we're creating energy. And so we learn a language that creates and extends love. We learn a language that's authentic, authentically loving. Authentic. This is the moment when we learn to listen to the music of our heart. We start dancing to that. We allow our souls to be totally free. That's the moment. You just hear the music of your heart and you go with it. You allow yourself total freedom. You trust yourself. You trust Spirit, what you call God. You trust that. And you're not worried about the steps. You're not worried about how crazy or weird you look to other people. In fact, you don't care anything about that. You surrender to the joy that you're feeling, the joy within you. You surrender to your inner loving nature. And now's that time where you have to trust. You have to trust because other people are going to think you're crazy. I know a guy, I found a book in my office. One of our past ministers left for me. It says, you're not going crazy, you're waking up. So somebody said something about that. Friedrich Nietzsche, he said, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. What are they doing? Woo! You don't hear it? Wow. Friedrich Nietzsche was one of the first existential philosophers. And I love it because he kind of took this idea of God out of the equation and said, it's all you. What's going on within you? What's going on in your consciousness? Right? Existentialism. That was a bad word when I first came into Christian circles. It was. All those guys were evildoers. You know, Friedrich Nietzsche, come on. He's a bad dude. Carl Jung, don't listen to him. You know, humanism, existentialism, all that stuff. It was that still to this day is something considered to be of the devil. It's evil. Because it's putting, why? It's actually the teachings of Jesus. It's putting you at the same level of God. If I'm a child of God, then God is what I am. That's just how it is. How can it be different? How could you be different than your Creator? Wow. So, this is going to seem a little crazy to everyone that believes in separation, that believes in the devil, that believes in sin, that believes in hell. Oh my goodness, that's the foundation of religion, right? No! Love, God, peace, joy, divine identity that's the foundation of religion. We're getting back there, aren't we? We're going to have a good time, come to Jesus meeting one of these days. Complete with gospel music and, oh boy, you haven't seen nothing yet. Because it's all there. It's all in the foundation, at the core of every religion. That loving one another is who and what we are. And that's how we should proceed in life. Now, since we've learned a lot of crazy things along the way, this new concept of prayer, this is what we learned last week. It's going to require, not may require, it's going to require a complete overhaul, not only of your understanding of God, but your beliefs about yourself. Yeah, and who you truly are. No, this is going to require, even if you've been in unity for many years or any other new thought tradition, you still have built up an understanding of God, and at this moment, it has to be overhauled. It's going to require, not may require, it's going to require a complete overhaul. I haven't brought in my consciousness to the repair shop in a long time. Needs a complete overhaul. Just everything. Thoughts, feelings, emotions. Come on, Spirit. Give me a tune-up. Tune me up, because I want to know who I am. I want to know who I am. This is from the 5 Principles, this quote. And Jesus said, he said in a vision to John in Revelations. I love this. I love the quotes that come from somebody who's having a revelation. And he who sat on the throne, he saw the Christ being, not necessarily Jesus, but the Christ, which is all of you. The Christed being, the light being. He saw him sitting on the throne and saying, "Behold, I make all things new." That's what's happening right now. In me and in you. The Spirit of the living Christ is making all things new. You're just undergoing an overhaul of your consciousness, that's all. Yeah, let's surrender and allow ourselves to come into that new place. Forget what we think we know. I want to come into a new understanding of God and myself, an experience of ourselves. In this new way of praying and living, it might take a little practice. It might feel totally natural to you. You might have been heading in this direction your whole life. But more often than not, it's going to feel very different at first. Because everything you were taught up until now is going to be overhauled. And don't worry about that. We're at the very beginning of birthing a new world. A world based on what? Expanded consciousness and love. The Christ in you knows what it's doing. Keep listening to the Christ in you. Keep listening to the music of your heart. And keep dancing with the divine. I love you.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityonCapeCod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.